What if everything you've been taught about how reality works is backwards? What if the world around you isn't reacting to your actions but to your vibration? Not your surface-level mood, not the mask you wear when you try to be positive, but the deep energetic signal your being is broadcasting every moment, especially when you're not trying. Most people move through life believing that change begins when circumstances shift. They wait for the job offer, the partner, the breakthrough, and only then do they allow themselves to feel different, safe, joyful, at peace. But here's the secret no one ever told you. Reality doesn't change so you can vibrate higher. Reality changes because you do. There is a frequency within you that reality already responds to. It's not a metaphor. It's not a spiritual idea to make you feel better. It's a precise law, a metaphysical switch that determines what you notice, what flows to you, and what remains out of reach. And most people have no idea that they're holding it, that they've been operating it all along, unconsciously tuning into versions of life that match not their desires, but their inner state. The frustration, the stuckness, the repeating patterns, they're not failures, they're echoes. Vibrational feedback from a signal you may not even know you've been sending. Joseph Murphy understood this before it became popular language. He didn't speak of manifestation as some abstract magic trick. He spoke of mind as a mechanism, one governed by belief, frequency, and alignment. He taught that your subconscious is not passively recording your life. It is actively projecting it, shaping every interaction, every outcome, every so-called coincidence. And that projection is entirely based on your vibrational state, which itself is built not from fleeting emotions, but from identity, expectation, and perception. So, if you've ever wondered why certain people seem to live in flow, where opportunities align, answers arrive, and doors open effortlessly, it's not luck, it's not even mindset, it's frequency. A deep internal coherence between who they are, what they expect, and how they relate to reality. They're not chasing life. They're resonating with a version of it that already exists. And reality, by law, must reflect it. That's the switch. Not trying harder, not doing more, but learning to command the frequency that reality already obeys. Most people have no idea that they're repelling the very things they claim to want. They speak abundance while vibrating in lack. They visualize love while carrying silent resentment. They affirm confidence but live in the shadow of self-doubt. Not because they're lying, not because they're weak, but because no one ever taught them the deeper mechanics of how vibration works. We've been conditioned to believe that thoughts alone change reality, but a thought not backed by energetic congruence is just noise. What really creates movement in the quantum field is coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and inner identity vibrate in harmony with what you say you want. But here's the trap. Most people don't vibrate from where they want to be. They vibrate from where they are. They look at their bank account, their body, their relationships, and they anchor their vibration to what they see. They respond to what's visible and wonder why the invisible never changes. And because their senses confirm limitation, their frequency aligns with it. That becomes their broadcast signal, a signal of lack, of not enough, of waiting. And reality, being obedient to vibration, simply echoes it back. It's not that they don't want change. It's that they keep checking the physical world for permission to feel different, when it's their internal shift that grants access to the new reality. Joseph Murphy spoke to this powerfully. The subconscious mind doesn't care what you consciously wish for. It responds to what you accept as true. And truth, in the subconscious, isn't logic. It's repetition. It's emotion. It's the energy you carry when no one's watching, when the affirmation stops and your nervous system speaks louder than your words. This is why people feel stuck, not because they're lazy or unworthy, but because they're trapped in a feedback loop, reacting to a reality that was created by yesterday's vibration and unknowingly recreating it again today. To vibrate higher, you don't start by changing your feelings. You start by changing what you allow to define you. You stop sourcing your identity from what's missing and begin rooting it in what's becoming. The frequencies that repel your desires aren't punished by the universe, they're simply out of sync. And the moment you shift into resonance, alignment becomes inevitable. Reality doesn't need to be convinced. It only needs a new signal. Raising your vibration isn't about pretending to feel good all the time. It's not about repeating positive words while your inner world trembles with resistance. True high vibration isn't a performance. It's a structure, a foundation built on inner coherence, self-awareness, and energetic integrity. While most people chase peak states, hoping to feel a fleeting moment of joy, those who truly shift their reality build something deeper. They construct the inner architecture of consciousness that naturally holds a higher frequency, regardless of circumstances. This architecture isn't built through effort. It's built through alignment, through honest self-inquiry, through consistent internal recalibration. It's recognizing that your frequency is not determined by what you say, but by what you believe when nothing is going your way. It's not how you feel when things are working. It's who you are when they're not. That's the blueprint that the universe responds to. That's the signal that shapes the field around you. Joseph Murphy often emphasized that the subconscious mind is governed not by surface emotion, but by dominant conviction. And conviction is a product of what you practice internally, over and over again. Every thought you repeat, every reaction you justify, every belief you reinforce becomes a structural beam in the vibrational house you live in. You can decorate it with beautiful affirmations, but if the foundation is fear, doubt, or shame, the energy that radiates from you will always reflect that. So, what truly raises your frequency? Radical honesty. The courage to see where your inner world is misaligned, the willingness to feel what you've been avoiding, the discipline to choose again when your old identity wants to take over. High vibration is not about constant euphoria. It's about stability, about clarity, about peace that doesn't depend on outcomes. And that peace emerges when your thoughts, emotions, choices, and self-image all begin to speak the same language. This kind of vibration doesn't spike and crash. It expands slowly, then becomes steady. It becomes your baseline. And when that happens, reality begins to respond in ways that feel magical. But they're not magic. They're simply the natural reflection of the structure you've built within. Your consciousness is not a passive observer of reality. It is the tuner, the selector, the signal tower. And whether you're aware of it or not, it is constantly choosing what part of the infinite field you get to experience. What most people call reality is simply a default setting, a pre-programmed perception loop based on old experiences, inherited beliefs, and unquestioned assumptions. But default doesn't mean destiny. And the moment you realize you can retune your consciousness, you begin to exit the loop. Every thought you engage with, every emotion you linger in, every belief you reinforce is a dial you turn. And the frequency you land on determines what becomes visible to you. Not what exists, because everything already exists, but what you can perceive. Joseph Murphy understood this clearly. He taught that the subconscious not only responds to the ideas we impress upon it, but also filters out any experience that contradicts our inner blueprint. This means you could be surrounded by opportunities, solutions, and synchronicities. But if your consciousness is tuned to scarcity, fear, or unworthiness, you simply won't see them. They remain invisible, not because they aren't there, but because your tuner isn't aligned with their frequency. This is why transformation never begins on the outside. It always begins with awareness. Noticing the thoughts you've normalized, the stories you keep telling, the emotional reactions you believe are automatic. None of them are fixed. They are programs. And every program can be rewritten, not through force, but through presence. Consciousness expands when you stop reacting and start observing. When you interrupt the loop and ask a deeper question, not what's happening to me, but what frequency am I tuned to right now? From that question, a shift begins. Not dramatic at first, subtle, gentle. But as you practice this awareness, you start to pull your energy out of the patterns that no longer serve you. You stop feeding the timeline you want to escape, and you begin feeding the one that aligns with who you're becoming. And that's when reality starts to change, not as a reward, but as a reflection of a new signal. One of the most powerful shifts you can ever make is to stop responding to the form and begin aligning with the field. The form is what you can see, touch, measure. It's the job, the relationship, the diagnosis, the number in the bank account. The field is everything that exists before that form appears, pure potential, unmanifested, yet fully real. When you live only from form, you're always reacting. You're waiting for something to change before you allow yourself to feel different. But when you learn to live from the field, you begin influencing what appears, because you're vibrating in harmony with what you choose, not just what you see. This is not imagination, it's precision. The quantum field responds to frequency, not logic. It mirrors the energetic signal you emit, not the words you speak. Joseph Murphy made this point again and again. Whatever you impress upon your subconscious, through feeling, belief, and repetition, must eventually express itself in form. Not because the universe is rewarding you, but because you've created coherence between your inner vibration and the reality that matches it. Living from the field means you stop asking, "Where is it?" and start embodying, "It's already done." You begin to feel the emotions of the desired reality before it arrives, not to trick the universe, but to tune your nervous system to that version of life. And the moment that alignment stabilizes, the field begins to collapse into form, not randomly, but precisely. This is how some people seem to manifest effortlessly. It's not luck, it's not magic. They've simply trained themselves to live in the frequency of the reality they desire, even when the external world shows no evidence yet. And eventually, the world has no choice but to reflect that signal. Because matter is slow, energy is fast, and vibration always leads the form. So if you want to change the visible, you must first master your relationship with the invisible. That's where true power lives, not in controlling outcomes, but in becoming the frequency of the outcome before it ever arrives. There's a subtle, dangerous trap that many fall into when trying to raise their vibration. It's the belief that high frequency means constantly feeling good, smiling through pain, denying fear, or masking sadness with spiritual language. This isn't vibration, it's performance. And the more you try to fake positivity, the more your inner world fractures. Because you're not aligning your energy, you're suppressing it. And what's suppressed doesn't disappear, it distorts. It echoes in your field, silently reinforcing the very frequencies you're trying to escape. Emotional intelligence is not about avoiding difficult emotions. It's about being able to meet them with awareness, without becoming them. It's the difference between saying, "I am anxious," and saying, "There is anxiety moving through me." One is identification, the other is observation. And that distinction shifts your frequency more powerfully than any forced affirmation ever could. Joseph Murphy taught that the subconscious is not moved by what you pretend to believe. It is moved by what you feel is true. And pretending to be okay while ignoring your emotional reality doesn't create coherence. It creates conflict. The truth is, dense emotions are not the enemy. They are part of the cycle. Just like night is not the enemy of day. Just like the tide must rise and fall. This is the rhythm of energy. To stay balanced in high vibration doesn't mean you never feel anger, fear, or sadness. It means you don't get lost in them. You don't let them define you. You allow them to move through while remaining anchored in the awareness beneath them. Trying to stay positive at all costs often becomes a form of spiritual bypassing, a way of avoiding your deeper work. But high vibration is not fragile. It doesn't require perfect conditions. It's built on inner spaciousness, on the ability to hold your full human experience without judgment. That's what elevates your frequency. Not resistance, but integration. The most magnetic people are not the ones who are always happy. They are the ones who are fully present, grounded, honest, whole, because their vibration is not just high, it's real. And reality responds to what's real far more powerfully than to what looks good on the surface. There is a part of you that has never been hurt, never been afraid, never been broken. It watches, it notices, it exists beneath every thought, every emotion, every story you've ever told yourself about who you are. This is the observer, the silent presence behind your personality. And once you begin to live from this space, not occasionally but consistently, your entire vibrational reality begins to shift. Most people live as the content of consciousness. They are their thoughts, their reactions, their wounds. They move through life from the surface, trying to manage their emotions while staying blind to the deeper self beneath them. But when you step back into the awareness that notices all of it without judgment, you step out of the illusion of identity and into the frequency of truth. And truth vibrates high, not because it's always pleasant, but because it's clear, steady, and unshakable. Joseph Murphy's work pointed again and again to this principle. The power lies not in controlling every thought, but in choosing where you live within your own mind. When you're stuck in the thought, you're in the loop. When you're aware of the thought, you're free. And freedom is magnetic. From that place of embodied awareness, you no longer try to force a better feeling. You allow the one that's present to pass through because you know it isn't you. You feel sadness without becoming sadness. You observe anger without unleashing it. You notice fear without building your life around it. And in doing so, you break the cycle. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you realize you are not the emotion. You are the space that holds it. That space is peace. That space is presence. And that space holds a frequency so stable that even the densest energies begin to dissolve in its presence. This is the real vibrational upgrade, not chasing highs, not resisting lows, but remembering the part of you that is never moved by either, the part of you that was always whole. That's the observer. That's the anchor. That's the frequency that changes everything. Not by escaping life, but by meeting it with unshakable clarity. At some point, after all the practices, all the awareness, all the inner work, you arrive at a final threshold: identity. Because you can think higher thoughts, feel better emotions, even access expanded states of consciousness. But if deep down you're still carrying the identity of someone who struggles, who waits, who tries to deserve what they desire, the vibration never stabilizes. Reality doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to who you believe you are. This is the shift that changes everything, not on the surface, but at the core. The moment you stop trying to get there and begin embodying the version of you who is already there, the one who doesn't beg the universe but collaborates with it, the one who doesn't measure their worth by what's happened but by what they've chosen to align with. That version of you already exists in the field, already whole, already vibrant, already free. And as you begin to choose that identity, not once, but over and over again, you begin to collapse all separation between the version you've been and the version you were always meant to be. Joseph Murphy spoke of this as spiritual assumption, to assume the state of the wish fulfilled, not as a trick or technique, but as truth. And from that assumption, all thought, all behavior, all vibration naturally aligns. You no longer act from doubt. You move from knowing. You no longer try to manifest. You express what has already been chosen. That kind of clarity is undeniable. That kind of coherence is magnetic. Reality cannot ignore it because it is no longer separate from it. It is it. And this is what it means to vibrate so high that reality reorganizes itself around you. Not because you forced it to, but because you stopped being the version of you that it used to reflect. You became someone else, someone aligned, someone ready, someone unshakably whole. And when you live from that space, reality has no choice but to follow.